everyone. Welcome to a conversation with our Amber Grant winner for June 2022. And today we're speaking with Shana Gilbert and Laura Lind, who are the co-founders of Denver-based The Sweetest Bean, which is our winner. I'm Marsha Layton Turner, and I'm a Women's Net Advisory Board member. And I have the pleasure of meeting all of our great winners. So Shana and Laura, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me.
Thank you for having
Absolutely.
us.
We are so excited.
Well, why don't you tell everyone about the Sweetest Bean, which I know means vanilla, but probably not everybody knows that. So tell us a little bit about your business, how you got started, everything else.
Okay, well, the story goes back a little bit, but just to give you the shortened version, I took off to Uganda, Africa in 2005. And I was a documentarian, and I met a group of street kids, 65 of them. They kind of changed my whole life. And while I was there, one of the street kids died, and I ended up adopting her little girl that she left behind. And from there, I stayed. I just moved in for 7 years. And we started businesses, all kinds. And Laura is my childhood friend. So she would help me do fundraisers and encourage me all those years through it, including what businesses. We had all kinds, piggeries, taxi cabs, hair salon, everything. But we landed on vanilla. And vanilla, it's a tough industry because it's generational. So people pass it down. It's probably, most of the spice industry is like third and fourth generation.
Wow.
And so that's where we really got started. Was I was already there learning how to do it. And I came to Laura and said, listen, I need to have the American side built up. So we're the buyers and the supplier. And we don't have to deal with the outside, necessarily the outside chaos of the big industries. And we want to start something, small and grow it from there. So that's kind of where we got started.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I love to cook and bake and all of that. And I really had no idea what went into vanilla. And just even from the get-go, the green bean grows out of an orchid flower. And then takes 9 months to grow, and then you have to cure it. And, I learned very quickly why vanilla is the very expensive spice.
Mm-hmm.
And so to sort of have a team in place, it was a great time for me to jump into something new. I'd always been an entrepreneur, and this was extremely intriguing to me, and we work really well together. Shana's kind of the dreamer and storyteller, and I kind of do a lot of the sales and vanilla is, like she said, is not something you just jump into. And the fact that we already had a team in Africa that allowed us to cure the vanilla and have it sent straight to us is pretty remarkable.
Shana, you mentioned that the business is generational. Tell me a little bit more about that. Does that mean the actual growing of the bean, like the farming of it, or the distribution end is?
Well, actually both sides, all spices. So vanilla is the second most expensive spice in the world, next to saffron, right? And the people who both supply it have grown up doing it their whole lives. And the people who buy it are also very savvy, understanding exactly where the best product is grown and who to actually work with. It's a corrupt business in that there's not a lot of industry in some of these very low income countries, low economies like Uganda. Mm-hmm. Vanilla's probably one of the bigger industries there as far as having an international market. So when you have a small supply of something like vanilla, because it's so hard to grow, all the buyers are coming in from every country at the same time, and they know who their suppliers are, and it's gone quickly. So I started, while I was living there, working with some bigger companies around the world who had inherited their companies from their grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and their families had always been in it. And that's how I learned the business. It was just slowly, and I thought, how are we going to do this? We can't do this. And my team there, we did it for years, before we started in the US, and we were the supplier. So we learned how to make a really good product. I'll show it to you.
Awesome.
You have some vanilla right here. We learned, you see how it's a little glistening in the, I don't know if you can see that in the light. It's very oily, lots of seeds in there. And in order for vanilla to look like this, it has to be cured in the very hot sun and sweat in these wool blankets for months on end. And it's very complicated to learn. You can't Google it. You have to learn it from someone who's always done it. So anyhow, it's a tough product to jump into. And I said, Laura, listen, I already have the whole team. I've got all the vanilla we need. Now we just need to build the company here. And she has done these remarkable things, selling to breweries, ice cream factories, distilleries, and finding markets that are kind of offbeat, and building relationships with them. That's what we've been doing.
Wonderful. Well, so now that you've won, how are you going to use the $10,000 to grow this business?
Well, it's so crazy. In the last 2 years, we have just really skyrocketed. And I've spent a lot of time reaching out to customers, building relationships, figuring out markets that really love sort of direct buying too. A lot of the breweries and small bakers and ice cream companies, they're used to going through brokers. And so they love that we are direct and there's no middleman. And as Shana alluded to, it's a really corrupt industry too. So we get asked often, do you have any children working for you? This and that. There's a lot of child labor in places like Madagascar that are in the vanilla industry. So it's important to us that we're not that, obviously. And we, have a group of adults that are making a stable income from us. So with the $10,000, it'll sustain some of our team. It will help us purchase a little bit more equipment for production of vanilla extract. And it'll also help us buy almost about 100 additional pounds of vanilla. Wow. So we're very excited to put it direct to production.
Yeah. So just curious, 100 pounds of vanilla beans, how many gallons or quarts, I hope?
That's a good question.
Well, it's 100 of these.
Okay.
So imagine a bean in a spice store costs anywhere between $6 and $9. Oh. We want to do 100 of these. So how many gallons is that? 80 gallons?
Yeah, it'll produce roughly about 80 to 100 gallons of vanilla extract for us. So it really does skyrocket us a little bit. And, it's hard to get new customers when you don't have the supply on hand and the equipment on hand. So it really will help a ton.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a dream.
And is vanilla harvesting, is it a seasonal business or?
Good question. Yeah.
Or is it year round?
There's 2 seasons a year in Uganda, and that's what makes Uganda special. Every other country has 1 season. So if you buy beans online, for example, you could be getting a bean that's a year old already. But we have 2 harvests a year, and it's very complicated. You have to hand pollinate every single flower, and it only opens for 1 hour, and then it dries up and falls on the ground. And it all comes from the fact that the Queen of England tried to bring the vines from Mexico when they colonized Africa, and they couldn't bring the bees with them. So the farmers hand pollinate. And if you wonder, then once it's hand pollinated, 9 months, it's just as long to have a human being as it is to grow 1 bean. 9 months to grow it, and 3 more months curing it. And so after, a year, we finally get it, and then it's precious. And then we turn it into something that you can make, croissants and creme brulee and enjoy everything. We also do powder, where we grind the whole bean, and there's no sugar. It's just the bean ground up. A lot of chefs require powder. And this is our packaging on the extract, and we put a bean in every bottle. People really love that idea. It keeps getting stronger in the cupboard.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely takes a village to get into the vanilla industry. This is not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Yeah. Well, so if your short-term plan is to sort of shore up your infrastructure with new equipment, 5-10 years out, where do you expect the business to be? What are your long-term plans?
Good. Well, I wrote down some notes because I didn't want to mess that one up. The biggest thing is in Uganda, our dream would be to have our own place in Uganda. We rent what we call the factory right now. There, our crew does. And so it'd be really great to have our own spot and to be able to kind of develop, but that'll take some time, of course.
Yeah. And then kind of within the next year, we'd really love to be able to find a production facility here that fits our needs size-wise, since we are growing, and be able to kind of get ahead on inventory. Yeah. It's just been harder than we thought to find the right commercial space, but I think it's doable. And I think we're in a place where we're close. We're just about there, but that would be a short-term goal for sure. And then the more we buy, the more we're able to, continue growing our team in Africa too.
Excellent.
We have anywhere between 12 and 30 people who have jobs, who are employed, most of them women. And when you think about the fact that they're normally the breadwinners of their family, sometimes they're the only parent, they then put their own children through school, pay their own medical bills, their own school fees, that sort of thing. For me, it's economy over charity and building an economy there. I did charity, I did foreign aid work for about a decade in Uganda. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And so providing jobs, that's our dream.
So how did you originally hear about the Amber Grant?
Oh, well, Laura gave me an assignment for the summer. She said, why don't you start grant writing? Start with women's grants. And you're the first one I found. And it popped up. The deadline was like the next day or 2 days later. I had just a couple days to figure it out. And I just went for it. So now
she's a writer.
Yeah.
She's
must be. Yeah.
Yes. So I was like, that's your job.
Yeah.
You can do it.
And somehow it works. So thank you.
Amazing. That's great. Well, yeah. So do you have any advice for women business owners who are maybe just getting started or who are a little bit earlier in their journey? What have you learned that you might recommend to them so that they can get to where you are now?
It's funny. Everybody starts a business with a passion typically, and there's a reason they're starting it. And oftentimes passion doesn't equate to sort of success in business. And you see that often. And I think for me, that I've been an entrepreneur forever, and it's not easy to do. Mm-hmm. You have to just be really patient. I think for us, the motto that we've really held true to, and sometimes frustrates us too, is just slow and steady wins the race. Mm-hmm. It's easy to have big ideas and to get ahead, and then you sometimes have to reel it back in. So mm-hmm. I think she would agree and say our advice would be just to stick to your original vision. And you can have goals and you can have a plan in due time, not taking too much,
No, I just want to add, that's exactly it. We didn't start with a big business loan. We started with literally nothing. I started just I brought the vanilla with me, and we just started in my basement, like businesses do, until we were able to get out of the basement. So no big loans, nothing that stressed us out. And I do have one more piece of advice, if I can add. This one inspired me. I start things, and one time I moved to LA to make my movie. I was making films at the time, and I met this lady, and she said to me, when you start things, there's only two outcomes. Either one, you start it and you fail, but you don't spend the rest of your life wondering if you should have done it. Or two, you start it and it works and everything's awesome and it's successful. And either way, you don't spend the rest of your life saying, should I have done that? So that's kind of Laura and I's thing our whole life. When we had an idea, we just went for it. And this is the current one that we hope is our last.
Yes, no more.
That's very brave, and I commend you for sticking with it, not knowing how's this going to go, but
no, and we really didn't. Yeah. And to some degree too, starting a business during the pandemic kind of helped us. So it was kind of miraculous, the things that came together for us.
Well, congratulations again. And thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with me, Laura and Shana. And congratulations again on being our June Amber Grant winner.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great day,
you.
Marcia.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.